So what we're going to do today is, today we're going to create like a tornado effect with Particular, this thing you can see here. I'll just take all these off the screen. So I'm going to basically create a tornado forming and then maybe add some rain and debris. But if you're interested, keep watching. So I'm just going to create a new project, a new composition, and first I'm going to create a layer for my Particular, and just make sure that's the same size as the comp. And I'm going to add Trapcode Particular, that creates like a basic emitter. Then I'm going to create a null object to emit from. I'm just going to move the anchor to the center there, snap it to the center. This one I'm going to call it, actually, sorry, I'm going to emit from a solid. So just create a solid 20 by 20 pixels and call it emitter. And so that's our emitter. And I'm going to go to Particular, emitter type, I'm going to choose layer. Then the option is all the way down here, so you might not be able to see it. Layer emitter, and then you choose a layer. Emitter, it says it should be a 3D layer. So what you have to do is then kind of click it again. And it's actually a bit of a cheat because it basically just creates a light emitter and then it attaches it to the kind of solid emitter we created. So it's basically cheating on their part, but it works. So, okay, got our emitter, got the Particular layer. And what we're going to do is now we're going to create a null. And I'm going to call this center null, just to kind of keep all the names nice and neat. I'm going to turn on my title action safe. I'm going to move my emitter to the top here, like that. And what I'm going to do is, like in general, if you want to do any kind of rotation effect, the easiest way is to parent something to the center of the circle and then rotate that object in the center of the circle. So I'm going to open up the rotation of the center null, and my comp's 200 frames long. And whoops, actually before I do that, I need to parent emitter to center null. So center null is now driving this emitter. Now I can add my animation layer. So I'm going to try 4 rotations. So as you can see, when this spins, it kind of drags this emitter along with it. So basically the center null is driving everything. And as you can see, using this method we can get perfectly a circular motion. So you can use this for like various other things as well. Just going to play that back. So we got a nice little circular animation going. That's good. And what I can do is I can turn off this emitter, well, make it invisible, and particles are still going to emit. And at this point I'm just going to save my project quickly because I've been experiencing some crashes. I'm just going to call this Tornado 1. Okay, so the next stage is I'm just going to go to my Particular layer and I'm just going to tone down the velocity option slightly, all 4 of them. I'm going to add 5, 5, 5, 5, and that kind of gives us a bit more stable kind of motion. So we've basically got this center null driving everything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a camera, because with Particular you don't really see any 3D effects till you add the camera. Then I'm going to create a null for my camera. I'm going to call this cam null. Then I'm just going to parent the camera to cam null. So the cam null is basically driving everything. I'm going to go halfway into the animation here. I'm going to hit R on the cam null. So I'm going to make that 3D layer. And now, as you can see, if I rotate the X rotation, we can kind of see it. It's like a star belt. We can see it side on. So I'm going to, actually I might just keep it about there. Now our animation's kind of happening. We've got we've got a side view on the animation, which is good. Just going to move that out. Now, so that's fine, we can work with that angle. And my center null, which drives everything, I'm going to add some more animation onto that, so I'm just going to make that 3D and it should stay the same. Now I'm just going to, if you play with the Z position, as you can see, it kind of, we can move it up and down. So I'm going to start it from the bottom here, and then I'm going to move it up like this, like off the screen. So what we get then is like a helix effect. I'm just going to set my animation type to fast draft. So if I play that back, because it's basically spinning and it's moving up, we get this kind of helix rotation. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to go to Particular, and I'm going to extend the particle life to about 12 seconds maybe, because I just want them to kind of stay there. So the velocity seems to be still a bit strong. I'm just going to reduce these down to 2, kind of keeps the bottom from expanding. Just going to save that. What else I can do is the center null, I can actually keyframe the scale. So I'm going to scale 100 at the end there, but then I'm going to start it off with 25%. So now it's kind of starting off small and growing like that. And it's also quite slow, so I'm just going to go to hit U to reveal all the keyframes we've placed so far. I'm going to Z rotation, I'm actually going to make this about 9 rotations, see what that looks like. And still not fast enough, I'm going to make that 20. Strange, seems to be ignoring, there we go. 20's maybe a bit extreme. Go with like 14 maybe. Sometimes with Particular, it's like I get kind of preview glitches. It doesn't always update as it should. It's quite annoying. I've had a lot of crashes actually trying to create this tornado. So yeah, we've got this kind of helix animation going on. Starts off kind of tight at the bottom and tapers out, which is pretty much what we want. And the Y position, I wouldn't mind that kind of going off the screen a bit quicker, basically growing. I'm going to make it grow a bit quicker. So let's have a look. Maybe even some more, like that, minus 2000. Okay, something like that. I'm going to go to Particular. I'm just going to kind of texture this basically a little bit. This particle size, I'm going to choose Glow Sphere. I'm going to make the size a bit bigger. The feather, I'm going to just reduce that down slightly. Glow is a bit strong. I'm going to tone that down slightly. And the size, I'm going to increase because we want kind of like a cloudy effect, and I'm going to adjust size random. Now the shading, we want some shading, yes. And shadow lit for main. Just going to turn that on. As you can see, that gives it some depth. And shadow lit settings, I'm going to make it always in front. And I'm just going to quickly render that. I think that Y animation is moving a bit fast. I'm going to make this minus 1000. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a light now to the scene. And if I go to Particular, I can basically turn on shading, and this light's basically affecting the kind of shading. And it's kind of quite difficult to find a good position, but if you can make sense of the light, just place it somewhere where it's kind of shading our tornado pretty much directly from the front. I think those particles are a bit big. Where's the size for 20? Just going to keep them small for now. And okay, so I'll just leave it like that. Rendering, go to rendering and motion blur on. Turn on motion blur. It seems to be ignoring it, but motion blur should be on. Just tweaking the gravity slightly. If we go to air, we can add some turbulence field, effect position, just kind of helps break it up slightly. You can also like add some wind. There's one more thing that's quite important. Oh yeah, emitter size Z. We can actually make that bigger, and it kind of just gets rid of those gaps, as you can see. Just kind of melds, kind of squashes everything together, which is quite it's a bit more useful. Now what's missing is this isn't spinning. So what we can do is, in particular, where it says world transform, we can actually if you go to Y rotation, it's not Y, sorry, X, no, it's Z. You can actually rotate it using the Z transform, and I think that wind is causing a problem. Basically, yeah, the problem is the cam null, that should be at 90 degrees, so it's dead on, and then we can go to the particular rotation and rotate the Z, so just make sure that camera angle is like dead on at 90 degrees. So now I can animate the Z rotation, which kind of gives it a spinning effect. I'm going to give it maybe like, I don't know, 6 rotations. And as you can see now, it's kind of rotating. This method's good because then it means the camera is kind of static. Like, you don't want if you rotate the camera around it, it's just going to kind of interfere with the lighting. Like if you got any lights, it's going to go light, dark. So it's best if the object itself moves. And fast draft seems to be the most non-glitchy render mode. So I'm just going to render that back. So that looks like our tornado is kind of forming. And what I'm going to do now is I'll try and get motion blur working again. I don't know why it isn't. Okay, now it's working. Not sure why it's suddenly working, but we can increase the shutter angle, and that should meld it together a bit more. So we've got this kind of smoky effect. Which is kind of, whoops, there we go, first crash. Unfortunately, experiencing a lot of crashing. So I'm just going to comp this, put it in another comp. As you can see, you've got this kind of tornado effect we've been working on. Now, this isn't probably the best field, but just to show quickly. Now what we can do is we can 3D comp this and move our tornado kind of just outside a bit more. And I'm actually going to kind of just roughly cut off like this bit here, and just make sure the mask's set to a subtract and feather it slightly. Might even expand it so it's kind of almost like it's happening on the horizon, and oh, it looks kind of too big to be a tornado. Actually, the lighting doesn't look very good either. It's kind of too dark at the bottom, so I'm just going to see if I can move this light. Actually, where's the sunlight? It's kind of maybe on this side. But the particles seem too big, so I'm just going to go back to particular and and I'm going to reduce the particle size, just more like that. See, kind of a bit more streaky. Just going to save that because it's going to crash again, I just know. And increase the particles, so that gives like kind of basically smaller particles and more of them, like basically gives more detail. And the blending options obviously can go a long way towards like integrating it with the scene. So I'm just gonna play about with these settings a bit more. As you can see, I mean, this is the fun part, like once you've got your basic setup, and then just kind of, wow, look at that, it's like a big bottom. That actually looks pretty sweet, doesn't look like a tornado, but looks like a kind of more like an explosion, nuclear explosion than tornado. Let's go back. I actually quite like that. If you actually, do you know, if you turn that upside down, that's pretty cool. I'm actually going to make the particles a bit smaller, 7. The velocity from motion actually seems to add a little something. Yeah, it's like, can't say it looks much like a tornado, but if we go to the shading, oops, just want to play with these ambient values maybe a bit. Light, the light's basically just not in a very good position. Maybe about there. I kind of want to. That looks a bit better, I guess. So you could probably blend this together pretty well and get some pretty decent results. But I'll leave the kind of all the texturing experimentation up to you. I'm actually just going to reduce these particles a bit more. I think one thing you can also do is we can actually duplicate this particular layer, and one thing I like to do is duplicate a layer and then kind of give the second duplicated layer like more properties, so I mean slightly different properties, so we can have like a smaller tornado inside of the one we created by playing with the settings, so it looks like it's got kind of 2 tiers. This looks like the kind of debris, and then that in the middle is like the, yeah, there we go, that actually looks, moves, kind of simulates a tornado much better. Just gets a bit out of hand towards the end. But yeah, I mean that's a multiply operation, and then maybe you can actually control duplicate the comp and do an add operation as well. Just get the best, there we go. These particles on the outside kind of go a bit haywire, but kind of basic setups there. It's just a matter of fine-tuning all these values. So this one, velocity. Actually, you can maybe suppress it with some air resistance. If like it's getting too crazy, you can just bump up the air resistance. Yeah, there we go. That kind of keeps things in well, we need it for the outer layer as well. We just go to physics, air resistance. Yeah, see that air resistance, yeah, we can use that to keep things in check, so just like the debris comes out to about there, and that's about it. Yeah, there we go. Now that's a tornado. And obviously it's kind of not very, just darken that up a bit. I'm just going to save this before it crashes. So yeah, I mean in terms of Hollywood CGI, it's not very good, but I mean with a little little bit of work, this could look very good. I just don't have the time to kind of fine tune it. But if you get the materials looking good, I mean, this could look very convincing. I think, yeah, the size could use it. I think the middle bit should be like thicker. Now, instead of glow sphere, we can try streaklet. Nope, doesn't look that good. Cloudlet. Maybe cloudlet's the kind of more better way to go. So I'll look at cloudlet. Yeah, so have a play around with that. I mean, those are the kind of basics right there.